Hey, this is Edison Phono 1, and today I've got a review for you of the Murray 25cc 2-cycle straight shaft string trimmer from Walmart. It was about 80 bucks. I chose a straight shaft because I'm about 6 feet tall, and I'd read that straight shafts are better for taller people. But anyway, the reason why I'm doing a voiceover is because in addition to this being a review, I'm also doing an unboxing and assembly video. This way I can speed up certain parts of the assembly and post-production to keep the video length down. So at this point I'm basically just taking the parts out of the box and seeing what I've got to deal with here. Basically you have three parts. There is the shaft that has the cutting head at the end, and then you've got the actual engine which has the first half of the shaft on it. That also has the handle on it. And then you've got the shield, which is to protect you from your feet getting hit by the string. The other thing that I'm looking for is the instruction manual, because that has some assembly instructions. If you'd like to, I'll put a link in the description where you can find the actual assembly instructions in PDF form. And the owner's manual also gives some other information such as the fuel tank capacity, some maintenance information. Just might be helpful to you. So moving right along here, what I'm about to do is install the shield. Now the shield has two screws inside of it, and you'll need to take the screws out using a Phillips head screwdriver before you can get started. Then it's pretty straightforward. You just put the shield onto where the holes line up on the shaft and then screw it in. The next thing that you'll need to do is you'll actually need to put the two halves of the string trimmer together. To do this, you take off the blue plastic cap that's on the engine side, and then you pretty much just snap it on. It's got a snap type connector where there's a stainless steel ball in the engine side and then a hole that it will lock into on the shaft side. Once you've done that, you can use the Allen wrench they provide you and tighten the two halves together. The last thing you'll need to do before mixing fuel and starting it is to get the handle in position. You might have seen that the handle is in fact already in position, however it's not quite tight enough. In case you were wondering, this is the step that requires a 3/8 inch socket. However, in the case of my string trimmer, I was actually able to use a large flathead screwdriver. You see, the bolt that they talk about needing the socket for was actually slotted, and therefore you could have just simply used a flathead screwdriver. In this case, I decided to skip over adjusting the handle because it seemed to be in place and I just wanted to get it started. So after I mixed the oil and fuel, I followed the starting instructions. Now on this string trimmer they're actually kind of odd, and I'm going to go over them with you in the next part where we get it to its first start. Alright, I've got it filled with fuel, and let's try and start it. It says move the choke to position 1. Well, first press the primer bulb 10 times. Okay, move the choke to level 1, squeeze the throttle, and it says pull 5 times. It's kind of odd. Then it says move the lever to position 2. Pull 3 to 5 times to start the engine. It's time for another talking head with Edison Phono 1. So for this string trimmer, I actually really liked it. As you can see, it started right after it should have. The instructions said that after the initial 5 pulls, it should start from 3 to 5 times on the second set of pulls. And it did start on the third pull, so way to go. Actually did start the first time. A little better than the lawnmower. Its performance, I really don't know what to say about its performance. This is the first gas-powered string trimmer I've ever used. I have only ever used electric ones besides this one. I can say that I'm not accustomed to a throttle because electric ones are either on or off, whereas this has a slow speed with the idle position. And I actually like that. I found that it was nice when the grass was thin. I could trim with a lot more control if it was at idle. And then the throttle, of course you need it if you have a lot of very thick parts. The other thing, the rotation was, I think, the opposite of my electric trimmers, so it kind of seemed weird because I tend to trim from left to right, and I think on this trimmer it's better from right to left. Not necessarily sure if that's true, but there is some adjustment to make. I do like the gas ones much better than the electric ones because the bulk of the weight is on your right hand as opposed to where you're controlling, so the actual head is much lighter, and I feel you have a lot more control because you have like a counterweight in your right hand as the engine. And this unit is very light. I believe it's actually 10 or 11 pounds depending on whether or not you have fuel in it. One thing I will say about its operation is that I'm about 6 feet tall, and it did seem like I was hunched over a little bit. Now I got the straight shaft model as opposed to the curved shaft model because doing some research online I found out that the straight shaft is better for taller people, and it's also easier to get under bushes, which is a lot of what this trimmer will be used for. Still, I found it to be just a little bit too short. However, adjusting the handle closer to the actual engine actually made things a little better for me. So even if you are on the tall side, like I am, this is still a fairly good string trimmer. Fuel mixture is 40:1. If you get this, it does come with two-stroke or two-cycle engine oil, enough to make a gallon, and I think a gallon might get you through an entire year. The fuel tank is only 10 ounces, and if you think about it, the fuel tank's probably going to be enough for it to run at least for 2 sessions of trimming. Indeed, when I was trimming, I used less than half a tank, so that's about less than 5 ounces each trimming. So in a gallon, 128 ounces, you're looking at, you know, well, of course, now I have to do the math in my head. You're looking at about 25 actual trimming sessions, so I think it might last you a whole season. So I bought a little thing of 2-cycle oil just in case, and I don't think I needed it. Now also, because the gas lasts so long, I'm not going to buy another gas can for it. I'm just going to mix the gas as I need it. Probably use something like a mason jar or a cup, and then a 2 tablespoon or a 2 teaspoon thing. When I mixed it, I did 10 ounces of fuel with the 2 teaspoon of oil, which is actually a little thick on the oil. That's probably more like 35 or 30:1. However, I think it's okay to go with a higher concentration because that's only more lubrication for the engine, so it can't really hurt it so long as it runs. The fuel I used was stabilized, so hopefully there won't be an issue. And I believe the two-stroke oil that comes with this also stabilized, so kind of taken care of there. So in general, I think it's a great buy. It runs very well. It starts very easily. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't know entirely what to expect from a gas string trimmer because this is the first one I've ever used. But it is certainly very easy to start, and once it's warmed up, you just barely pull on that cord and it'll start for you again. One thing that's kind of odd is the ignition switch is in default on. Basically, you push it to shut it off, otherwise it will always stay running. I mean, it's actually kind of nice because you don't have to wonder whether or not it's on, and really the only time it matters is to shut the engine off. So I think it's great. I got it because the lawnmower exceeded my expectations, and a new string trimmer I thought would be nicer to cut the cord since we no longer will have the cord going with the lawnmower, and it was only 80 bucks. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope the review was helpful to you, and I think this is a good choice if you need a new string trimmer.